Hey everyone, it's Tim from smarthomemastery.com. I just wanted to ask you to please subscribe and give us a thumbs up if this video is helpful. We're going to be doing lots of cool projects like this, home automation, home theater, solar, you name it, cool home, DIY home automation projects. So please subscribe so you can be notified. Make sure you click the bell so you're notified when we have a new video. Check out our blog at our website at www.smarthomemastery.com, and we can get into the video. Thanks. Hey everyone, it's Tim from smarthomemastery.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make your own motorized blinds, just like I did for my home theater here. It'll cost you a fraction of what it would if you were to purchase them, so stick around. Before we get into how I built them, let me show you them in action. So we're here in my home theater, and we're going to be doing a project on automated blinds. And so I wanted to show you what this looks like with the blinds closed. And there's not as much light coming through these as it looks. I think the camera's adjusting for it, so it looks a lot brighter than what it really is. But what we're going to be doing is showing you how I created these for myself, and what the difference is when it's open and closed. So I built these for a fraction of what it would cost to purchase them, and this is all automated through my home automation controller, and there it is. That's what it looks like when everything's open. So I wanted to give you that before we start the video, but that's the before picture. So that's how they look when they're opening, and I can close them as well. I have them set right now to open and close automatically at 10 in the morning. They open at 10 in the morning and close at 10 at night. I'm in Vermont, so we use them for some heating, to hold some heat into, so that helps with that. And also I have buttons set up with my home theater here so that if we're watching a movie during the day, I can hit a button and they'll all close and the lights will dim down and LED lights will come on. I can show you, I'll do a video of that maybe for the end of after we get done building these things. So let's get to it. So first I wanted to go over all the parts you're going to need. I'll start off with the blind motor. I got this from Rollertrol. This is a 12 volt, 12 pound lift blind motor. And I'll have links to all this in the description. Also from Rollertrol, I also got the wall mount one channel controller. So this is to control them going up and down. And we're going to integrate that. We're not going to use the buttons on there. We're going to actually integrate that into some Insteon I/O links. These are Insteon 2450s, and you need 2 of them. And I will show you how we're going to wire this to run the controller so that you can actually make the blinds go up and down through your home automation. You're going to need some double-sided tape. This is just Scotch brand double-sided sticky tape. And then the blinds themselves I got at blinds.com, and I'll show you I'll put a link in the description for these exact blinds. They're just their low-end blackout blinds, which is all I needed here for my home theater. So that's the materials, and let's we'll start showing you how we did put this together. Well, you'll notice that just a little different here. When I went to edit the video, I realized I deleted a very important part of the video somehow, so I'm going to film it again. And that was about the pipe. I forgot to mention the 1 1/4 inch EMT conduit. You can just get this right at Home Depot, because what you're going to do is when you get the blinds from blinds.com is it just comes in a cardboard tube. You want to unroll that completely, pull the blind material off from the cardboard tube, clean the residue off from that as much as you can. It might be hard to get it all off, but you don't need to get it all off. Then you're going to cut this pipe. So this is just a piece of regular electrical, you get in the electrical section at Home Depot, 1.25 EMT. So you measure your blind and you want to cut the pipe so it's the exact same length as your blind material. And so just measure it, cut it with, I used to use a hacksaw to cut it off. And then what you're going to want to do is put a straight line on it, and that's so that when you put the double-sided tape, because that's what's going to hold the blind material onto the pipe, when you put that on, you'll be able to put it on straight. It's going to be important when you put the blind material on there that you get it on evenly, so when it rolls up evenly. So a little trick for that, the 1.1/8" corner trim material, the PVC corner trim material that you're going to use, which I'll show you later, how you're going to use this to frame out around the window to help block some of the extra light coming from around the blinds. Take a piece of that, like this, and then put the pipe in it, and you'll see that gives you the ability to make a nice straight line. So then you can just take, a Sharpie, run the Sharpie along the edge. And again, this is just an example, so, but then you'll see you get a nice straight line. So once you've cut this to the right length, put it in a piece of trim, draw the line, and then you take your double-sided tape and use that line and run that tape right down the line, and then stick it on. Stick it as you go here. But you would do this on the cut piece, obviously. So you just run that down through, cut it off like this, and then you would run it the whole length, and then that's what you will stick your blind material to later on. Just be sure to check out the link to the document in the description. It's going to go through, there'll be a link to the blog site where it's going to go through all this in detail. It'd be a lot easier to have the wiring diagram and stuff up there too, so I'm going to put that up there. But I just noticed that for some reason I deleted the video or something about the actual pipe part of it. So this is important piece of the materials that you're going to need, and then also this is what you're actually going to roll the material up on and then insert the motor into. So what you're going to see is the next video is going to be about inserting the motor into this, but I wanted to make sure you got this part of it because it's very important. Cut the pipe to the length of the blind material, draw a straight line all the way across it, attach the double-sided tape using the line, and then you'll actually take the blind material that you pulled off from the cardboard tube that you got from blinds.com, and then you just work your way down the pipe, attaching it to the double-sided tape, and then you can just roll it up just like a blind. And again, the next video we'll go right into, and I'll be wearing different clothes. We'll go right into putting the motors in and then getting it mounted and everything. But I realized this important piece was missing, so I wanted to make sure I got it in there. All right, thanks. So when you're done rolling, I wanted to point out too the colors. For me, I want obviously the black on the inside. So when you're rolling it, make sure you got the black on the inside and the white on the outside, or whatever color you end up with. You can get a whole bunch of different colors for these. But for my home theater, I wanted black. So when you're done, you should end up with something like this right here. You just see in the end how it's nice and tight and smooth there. So the motors you get from Rollertrol fit perfectly inside of the 1.25" EMT. So you'll get it like this, and then you'll get the idler for the other end. So you can just take this and slide it into the EMT just like this. And it should slide in there really nicely. Just like that on that end. And then this idler piece goes in the other end. Just like that. So that's all there is to that. When you get this, you're gonna have a longer wire on this. It'll be a long folded up wire. What I like to do is take these connectors, which I'll link to these. You can get these on Amazon really cheap. And you'll see on the other end when I put the wiring on by the window, so you can plug them in and unplug them real easily. And then so you just cut most of the wire off and connect it, strip it and connect it to that connector. And then this is the female side, and there's the male side is over by the window. So that's it for the motor. I guess we can go over some of the wiring for this next, and also talk about what we did on the window side. So I wanted to mention, before you actually cut this wire, again, this one's already been installed, so that's why this wire is short, but this will be a really long wire. Before you put the connector on it and cut that short, there's going to be some instructions that come with the Rollertrol motor on how to set it. So you need to set the high point and the low point so it knows when to start, where to stop at each end. And so the best way to do that is actually to leave that wire long, and then use your one channel controller. So these come installed in these boxes, and so you would just take the screws off, which I've already taken these off. So you just take these 4 screws out, open this up, and inside here you're going to have your up, your stop, and your down buttons. And then at the bottom, and this is going to be probably hard to see on here, but there's basically a 12-volt side and then a motor side. So your 12-volt side is what you're going to hook up to your power supply, and then you would run this wire. And again, this would be a lot longer when you get it from them. I just cut it off and had the connector because it's been installed. You'd run that down and hook that to the screws that say motor on it. And it's much easier to do it this way before you hook up any of this home automation part. Install all your blinds. Use this controller to actually set those stop points. And again, those instructions will be with the blinds themselves. But I'll make sure that's a link in the description too. But it's much easier to have the one channel controller set to set all that before you hook this all up to the home automation part. So I just wanted to put that out before anybody started cutting their wires off and making them short, because it'll be nice to have the long wire coming down off from the motor once it's installed up in the window. And so you can plug this in somewhere and do all your setting by starting, stopping, and everything. You'll see those in the instructions. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about for that. And so the next thing we're going to, I guess, talk about is wiring diagrams, and we'll probably be doing some stills for that, because that will be the easier way to do it. I have some still wiring diagrams on how these actually get wired to control the blinds, and so we'll probably walk through that next. So before we get into the actual wiring diagram, I wanted to point out that on this one channel controller there's a little connector, little white connector, and I'm going to have some close-ups of this on stills, but so it says it's stop, up, common, and down, and so basically it can be used instead of these buttons, and that's what we're going to be using to tie into the Insteon controller so that we can automate it. And so with this controller, you should be getting a little ribbon cable like this. It's just a 4-pin ribbon cable, and so you can slide that in there like that, and that's how we're going to be actually connecting this into the controllers, into the Insteon controller I/O links. So you'll plug one end into that, and you're actually on the other end just cut that connector right off. We'll be stripping these wires down, and some of those wires will be connecting into the Insteon 2450s. So these are the I/O links. They're just little relays basically, and you got the common, normally open and normally closed on these. And so that's how we're actually gonna be able to do the up and down through our home automation system, is by having these things control this one channel controller. Essentially, all your motors will be running off from these same 2 connectors. So you're gonna want to make sure you have a decent power supply, decent 12-volt power supply to run this. And so again, I just use these same connectors, these 12-volt power connectors, and just wired on one end, the connector on that end, and just wired it into the 12-volt side on this one channel controller. And then again, all your motors will hang off from, can be tied together and will all hang off from the other two connectors that are marked motor. So the other thing I wanted to mention on this, which you'll see on the still too, but is there's a jumper here to set the switch to either momentary or latched. And I think it comes from the factory as latched, so you're going to want to move that jumper to momentary, because we're going to be using a timer in our home automation controller to just turn these on for just long enough so that they can either fully go up or fully go down. The motors themselves will stop, and that's part of the program we went over before. The motors themselves will stop when they reach their limits that you programmed in the previous step. So that's it. I just wanted to go over that before we actually took a look at the wiring diagram, so you'd have a little better idea of how we're going to do that. And I think so we'll get on to the wiring diagram next. So for the wiring diagrams for this, go check out the blog. There is going to be a video here where I show you how I wired it, but it's just too hard to show with these small of connectors exactly how they're wired up with this. So go check out our blog site. Again, I link in the description. Go click on that, and that will walk you through a detailed picture of this and how to wire it. There's a detailed wiring diagram there. So I didn't want to try and do that on a video because it wasn't coming out good enough for anybody to be able to see. So go check out that blog, and that'll give you the info. So just switch into my cell phone here, so hopefully the audio is okay. Just to show you the window end. So I just use thermostat wire. So this is, I think it's 18.2 it's called. I'll look it up and make sure it's in the link. But if you got to get 18.2. I find this works the best. It's solid wire. And the reason I use wired instead of wireless is because I didn't want to worry about batteries. So if you get the wireless ones, I have 5 windows in this room. You have to get like battery packs to install in each of them. And I just didn't want to have to worry about swapping batteries in and out. So I'll show you some still pictures I have from when I installed this and how I did it. But essentially I run all these back to my wiring closet for my home theater. And I'll show you that wiring in a second, but I just wanted to show you the window side. And you can also see the brackets that are used to hold these up. So that other side was the motor side, and this is the idler side. So basically these just slide down into here, and then you lock it in with that after. But for the motor side, I had this paper clip on here because this one it walked a little bit, and I wanted it to be perfectly lined up with this trim. So while we're here, I guess we'll talk about the trim too. So this is plastic trim. It's the same stuff you probably saw me use to draw the line on the pipe, but essentially it's just that plastic angled trim that you can just get at Home Depot. And what I did is I just it's like kind of almost like corner trim, and so I just framed it. You can see on the window here like this. And so what that does is it blocks out the light that's the gaps between the sides of the blind in the window itself. So it just helps to black it out more. And so you just got to kind of make this U shape out of it. And you can see right there, I just stop it before it hits the blind on both sides. And let me just take you over here for a second. Try and do this slow so nobody gets dizzy. To this one that's finished. And you can see what I'm talking about. So when the blind goes down, see how it hides the extra gap between the blind and the window. And it's a great way to do it without it binding. It doesn't bind. You can see same thing on the side. And so I have these two, and those 3 across the back. And you probably saw that in the video that I showed at the beginning when I was showing you how they worked. So I just want to show you the window side here, and now we'll go over into the wiring closet side. So this is going to be a little hard to see, but I wanted to show you how, this is the final product. This is how it's hooked up in my case here. And again, I got the cover off from this, so all of this gets all tucked inside, so you can't see any of this. But I used one of these, this is from Amazon, and I'll link to it, but essentially there's two wires coming off from this that go into the motor section on the switch, and then you can see you got the plus and minus side, and so I can just hook my motors up to it, just like that. So you got the wires, so these essentially are all the same, you know, plus and minus hooks up to the motor side, and then these blue and green wires I run up to the individual motors for each window, and you can see those running up for, you know, each column, the columns that actually have windows with the motors in them. Those wires go up and tie into those. So that's how I did mine. There's a lot of other wiring here too, but this is the actual block that hooks all the motors together, and then the plus and the minus. And then this is kind of my messy wiring on the 2450s. The 2450s just have to get plugged in. So they have just standard plugs on them, so you plug them into outlets. I ran these little Y pigtails up from my outlets that I have. I have some outlets mounted just below here, and some of these are actually Insteon outlets that control my LED lighting and my soffits. Again, I'll show you that stuff later. But I think the pigtail actually is wired in right here, so that just goes up, and you got, it's a Y pigtail, and so these two are plugged in. And I just plugged them into each other and then plugged them into one of the pigtails. This other pigtail, I'm going to be doing the same exact thing, which I'll show you once I get it done. I'm going to be actually creating a curtain for my screen. And I'm going to be using the same type of motor that I used on the windows to actually open and close the curtain on my screen. So that's it. Those, again, those plug in, these just can plug into regular outlets. This will be controlled through your, you know, just like the other Insteon stuff is. Through the home automation controller, and then you know, this will, you know, either have seen this the detailed wiring diagram, or I'll show you the detailed wiring diagram after this. But this is how it's physically hooked up in my home theater, and I'll probably should show you a shot with this all closed up, so you know it's a lot neater looking than what it looks like here. But anyways, that's what it looks like here. That's what the finished product looks like in my home theater. So this is my wiring closet. As you can see, my home theater isn't done, and it's a little messy in here right now, but I'm still finishing up everything. But this is essentially the rack that I have. And I'm going to show you this later too, because this is kind of cool. It's on rails, and there's a linear actuator that actually closes this. So the rack will actually be the door to the room, and when it's closed, you won't even know that there's a room behind this. So I'll show you that in a different video. But so here's all the wiring. So I ran, it's called Smurf tube, but I ran this blue low voltage tube to each column, and then ran it all back to this wiring trough. And then from the wiring trough, there's pipes that go down to these Leviton low voltage boxes. And the one you see on the left there is for my LED lighting, and I'm going to be doing a video about that too. But this one right here, you can see I got a bunch of, this is where that thermostat, 18.2 thermostat wire comes back to. And those are the actual controllers. That's the actual controller for my blinds right there. And again, I'll show you how that's wired. But, and then, you know, there's covers that go on these boxes, so that when it's done, it's all nice and clean. Everything's neat. There's the wires coming from my stage. And again, I'll be doing some more home theater stuff to show you that, but I just wanted to show you. So I have all these wires coming back to my wiring closet here, and there's the power supply. There's the 12-volt power supply that powers them. And again, I'll link that up too to show you what I use there. So all the wires for every one of the windows goes into the columns that are next to them, and then all of those, you can see those are all labeled through all of my columns, 1 through 8 I think it is. And then so that all comes back to here and then gets wired into the into those two Insteon 2450s that are right there that actually are the things that control the blinds. So I just wanted to give you a shot of what it looks like on this side, and again, you'll be seeing all the wiring diagrams for this, so it probably looks really confusing in there, but it's not that bad. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about mounting. Actually, we didn't talk about that yet. So you're going to not use any of the hardware that came with the blinds.com blinds. You're going to want to use the hardware that came from Rollertrol with the motors. And so I think I pointed this out before. The paperclip does not come with it. I put that on there. But essentially, if you ordered your blinds correctly, the brackets should go right against the edge of the outside of the window, just like that. So this is the motor side that's got the just fixed tab sticking out, and then this is the idler pulley side that's got the latch to hook it in. And you just flip that around to lock it. So you'll notice on, see if I can do this with one hand or not, probably not. But on the motor side, you'll see there's that notched hole right there. And those notches go right inside of that tab. So that slides in that way. And then the idler pulley side, you'll notice on there, drops in. So I can show that. Yeah, there's the idler pulley side. See that notch? The notch in the side slides into that. We got a nice snowy day here in Vermont. So essentially that just sits up in there. And I'm probably not going to be able to do this with one hand, but that would just go in like that, and then this side would go up above and then slide down in like that. So I'll hook that up here in a second and show you what it looks like. So again, this is the blind installed, and so my windows have this groove in the back here where it's actually where the top window, bottom sash, goes up, but it'll hit these stops before it gets up in there, and so there's like this channel up there which was perfect to tuck the wires in. So the wires come off from the motor, off the back, and so in the wire you see it up right there. That's where the wire comes out. The feed wire comes out, and then they just tie together with those connectors, like I said. And I'm able to just push the connectors right up in there. So when you're done, you can't see any wires at all. So I mentioned I would show you how I had my home theater programmed with my LED lights and soffit lights in the blinds. So here's a video I shot a little while ago for another project I did, which I'll link in here, for the soffit LEDs. So I'll show you how the blinds work for that. So here's a shot of my messy home theater. It's still under construction, so sorry about the mess here. What I wanted to do was give you a demonstration of the soffit lights. There'll be a link in the description below on how I did these, and you might have seen my other video and a blog about how I did the handrail, and I'll show you where those are all tied together, so whatever color is displayed here is also displayed on the handrail. But essentially I have a movie mode here that I'm building as a scene in my home automation controller. So if I hit, I have these smart home switches. Insteon switches from Smart Home. I have several of them here, but this is all going to be automated into a remote as well. So there's my screen. So if I hit, I think it's C I have set up. Yeah, so you can see my soffit lights come on. The shades close. And so the shades all close so that during the day all the lights cut out. There's the final one for that. I think I gotta have the lights dimmed down more, obviously. They're still too bright. So I'll have to adjust that in my scene, but that's essentially it. I was gonna show you how I built these soffits with the LED lights in them. So that'll be in the description below. So if you're curious about that, go take a look. Thanks. So that's it. Not a very complicated process. I know the video's a little choppy. I tried breaking up into bite-sized chunks. If you have any questions, just please leave them in the comments, and I will do my best to get back to you. It's really a simple project. You know, just basic hand tools. The hardest part was probably going to be getting the wiring to where you need it if you don't have your walls open. If you are just starting to plan your house, if you're in the wiring process or just planning it, get those wires to there. I have another document that I can link to that has all of my recommended wiring for a new home in 2019. And part of that is recommending running that thermostat wire to the windows if you want to have automated blinds. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Again, don't forget to subscribe and hit the thumbs up. We're going to be doing lots more of these types of videos. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks. Bye.